Welcome to The Telescope Show. We are discovering God through geek culture, vanquishing doubt, and helping you become a hero of faith. Matthew Seipel Anderson here with you once again. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I certainly did. I enjoyed my time up in the Northland with family and friends. It was great. And thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. So, the question that was in the title of this episode: is Marvel about to sideline Spider-Man and Hawkeye? Well, we'll discuss that in just a few minutes, but first off, let's get into some news. In news, a New Zealand city is taking its official wizard off the payroll after over 2 decades. Yes, you heard that right. It's official wizard. Wow. Rachel Treisman of NPR writes, Ian Brackenbury Chanel is known as the Wizard of New Zealand, apparently even on official documents like his passport. He's been on the Christchurch City Council's payroll since 1998, receiving an annual salary of $16,000 to provide, quote, acts of wizardry and other wizard-like services as part of promotional work for the city of Christchurch. The article goes on to say that the final payment to the Wizard of New Zealand was made in December, so he is now off the payroll of Christchurch. That is hilarious. You can find these articles, of course, in the show notes. I will link all of them. In Akron, Ohio, a 58-foot-long pedestrian bridge was stolen, and that bridge has been found, and a man is facing charges. It was stolen by a 63-year-old guy, and here's the funny part. This guy took 2 trips, and the 2 trips were over a week apart. On November 3rd, the wooden deck boards of the bridge were missing. On November 11th, the guy actually hired a crane company to help him steal the metal frame. Completely crazy, completely true. Reported by AP. Check out the story if you want the full scoop. And finally, a dentist in Italy faces possible criminal charges after trying to receive a coronavirus vaccine in a fake arm made of silicone. And it didn't work. Yeah. And they actually pressed charges on him. They take that kind of thing very seriously in Italy. Let's boogie on down the road and get into our featured content. Alright, in the intro, I asked this question: is Marvel about to sideline Spider-Man and Hawkeye? It's almost inconceivable that they would do that. But I really think Spider-Man and Hawkeye are being sidelined, each in their own way. And let me explain. Let's start with Hawkeye. Clint Barton appears to be going the way of Phil Coulson. Now, if you recall, Phil Coulson was Nick Fury's right-hand man. The character sort of died, but was brought back or saved, depending on how you look at it, in the TV series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And he finished out his run on that show as the leader of a cell of S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives, and was a very well-loved character. Well, Hawkeye didn't die like Coulson did, but as far as the other Avengers are concerned, Clint Barton is retired. He's done. He is sidelined. The Hawkeye show, which aired recently, thrust Clint Barton back into the superhero life, but it did not bring him face-to-face with any Avengers-level threat. Unless you count Rogers the Musical, nothing on the Avengers, scale. Like Coulson, Hawkeye even has a little crew that he's in charge of. He has Kate Bishop, Yelena, Jack Duquesne, and maybe Maya. Assuming Kingpin didn't kill her, which, he very likely did kill her. But she's a pretty cool character, and, the whole sign language thing, it's been a theme in the show. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that Maya is alive, although so was Kingpin. I definitely thought that this show would send our beloved Avenger riding off into the sunset with his wife and kids. I wasn't anticipating that Hawkeye would get a second season, so I definitely didn't see that coming. Now it appears that it will even get more than 2 seasons. And I'm not saying that because I've seen any news on that. I'm saying that because they're setting up so many things that I think they might give Hawkeye more than 2 seasons. That's just my prediction. Now you might ask, Matt, how can you say Hawkeye's getting sidelined if he's getting multiple seasons of his own show? Well, I would say that's a great question. He is getting sidelined from the big action that is taking place in the feature films, and he's moving into the role of leader and mentor to make room for characters such as Yelena and Kate Bishop, and those characters are going to now take center stage. I may be wrong. Hawkeye might make a few appearances in future films, but I would be shocked and even a bit disappointed if he ended up playing a major role in the upcoming phases. His character is shifting, and that's a good thing. That's good writing, and it's just more satisfying as a viewer to see these characters go through natural progressions and see them be actually impacted by the things happening in these shows. They're not static. They don't stay the exact same. It's just better this way. I am very excited to learn about Clint's wife. This is a really cool thing. She obviously has a connection to S.H.I.E.L.D. and was a former owner of the mysterious wristwatch that the Tracksuit Mafia wanted so badly. Remember, early on in the series, that's what they were looking for when they came in and ambushed that dinner party. So yes, I am looking forward to learning about all of her juicy secrets, her juicy spy secrets from her past in the next installment of the series. Hawkeye is not going away anytime soon, but he has been somewhat sidelined to the small screen, and that's fine with me. You know, he only played a supporting role in the Avengers anyway. It's been great to get to know this hero better through the Hawkeye series. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it immensely, although I will say this last episode had some moments that were a little bit too Disney for me. You know, not enough Marvel, a little too Disney, a little bit too much cheese. Overall, loved it, enjoyed it. Let's move on. Let's talk about Spider-Man. What if I told you that Marvel is sidelining Spider-Man? It's almost inconceivable. It's like out of the question. It's too much to even think about. Let me explain my simple and very persuasive theory, and your mind will soon be melted and conform to mine. Alright, cheesiness aside, let me walk us through the very ending of Spider-Man No Way Home. Spoilers are coming, so just beware. And let me lay out my case for Spidey being sidelined. Okay, so in Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange's spell makes everyone forget who Spider-Man is, and Peter Parker makes the decision not to reintroduce himself to his former friends because he wants to keep them safe. He also wants to give them the opportunity to live normal lives. Also, just before casting the spell of forgetfulness, Doctor Strange made it a point to remind Peter that everyone will forget him, including Doctor Strange himself. That line cemented the ramifications of the spell in the audience's mind. The spell was cast. No one remembered Peter Parker as Spider-Man. Peter Parker returned to his roots as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man living in a dumpy apartment. The trilogy came to a neat and tidy and somewhat sad end. So what's next for Spider-Man? Well, the mid-credits scene answers that question. Spider-Man is going to have an adventure involving Venom, though it might not be the version of Venom played by Tom Hardy. If you recall, a little piece of the Venom symbiote was left behind in the MCU before Tom Hardy was beamed back to his own corner of reality by Doctor Strange. This was huge! A Venom symbiote is in the MCU. Dude, it's so cool. Again, you might be thinking, yeah, Venom is in the MCU. That's huge. It really doesn't sound like Spidey is getting sidelined at all. Well, Spider-Man is not being demoted from blockbuster films to a TV series, like Hawkeye is. He is being sidelined from the main story of the MCU, right? And they're doing that so Sony and Marvel can develop the Spider-Verse. I actually think that Spider-Man will find his way back into the main MCU storyline at some point. But for now, I think they have set things up perfectly for Spider-Man to go off and have some solo adventures. Just think about it. Everyone in the MCU just forgot who Spider-Man is. Disney and Sony just signed a huge deal to make a Spider-Man/Venom crossover happen. So, it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form. And number 3, No Way Home introduced the multiverse and hinted at a black Spider-Man. So if you add all these things up, to me, the calculus is saying Spider-Man is going off to do his own thing. He's not going to be a part of whatever's happening with the Eternals and Shang-Chi and all that stuff. It might cross over some with what's going on with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness at some point. And that's the point where I could see it tying back into the main Marvel thing, is through the multiverse, and Spider-Man's involved in the multiverse, and the multiverse is going crazy, and Doctor Strange is trying to fix it or do his thing, and Spider-Man could come back in and be reintroduced. But I really think they've set the stage for Spider-Man to go do his own thing, deal with Venom, meet Miles Morales, Black Spider-Man, and that would be awesome to bring him into live action. I mean, the fans will freak out. We'll be so excited if that actually happens. I really hope it does. And honestly, you can almost be guaranteed that it's going to happen because they dropped that little line in Spider-Man No Way Home. I always thought, Spider-Man would be black. That's what Electro said. And we know that we've got that cartoon with Miles Morales, and it was a huge hit. You can just pretty much count on the fact that they're going to bring him into live action, and it's going to be super sweet because he's a great character. And there's also a practical reason for this. Marvel wants fans to fall in love with newer characters like Shang-Chi and the Eternals. They need to take Spider-Man out of the equation so they can tell stories with these new characters and help us get to know them. I mean, let's be honest, Spider-Man is like a total show stealer. We love Spider-Man, and if he's in the scene, we're going to be focusing on him instead of these new characters that we don't know and don't really care about yet. I'm always blown away whenever I watch Marvel movies, or I should say maybe the more Marvel movies I watch, I'm just blown away by the forethought and all the planning that goes into these movies. I mean, you think about the fact that they just put this one line in a movie in the mouth of Electro, that line I was referencing that refers to Miles Morales, and they're hinting at what's coming in the future. And that means they thought that far ahead. The planning and the forethought is really, really impressive. And it's amazing. They must have a bunch of storyline accounts who do nothing but keep track of the details and make sure nothing is goofed up, because it's just it's pretty amazing. And the work definitely pays off. The MCU has got to be one of the most loved properties of all time, and it's due in large part to Marvel's fantastic planning. Speaking of planning, this time of year I always try to do some planning for the year ahead. I don't know, how about you? Do you kind of look back at the previous year and kind of mull it over and then try to look forward and make some plans for the year to come? Do you set resolutions at New Year's? Do you set goals? What kind of goals do you set? I like to do this. It's been a good practice. It's really helped me. And I like to set goals for work, goals for my family, goals for different things. But how about spiritual goals? This is the show where we discover God through geek culture. And I would like to challenge you to try to discover God this year. I don't know where you are in your faith journey. Maybe you're just starting out. Maybe your faith is going strong. Maybe your faith has faltered in recent days, months, years, and you're just not really sure where you are. Maybe you're not sure if you have any faith at all. That's okay. Try looking for God this year rather than leaving it to happenstance. Pray and ask God to reveal himself to you. Maybe you need a book that will give you some, solid reasons, something that will reignite your faith in God and in Jesus. I'd like to give 2 suggestions. I've got a couple suggestions, a couple books. I've read a ton of these kind of books over the years. 2 of them really stand out, and I'll just throw out a couple suggestions for you. If you're looking for a good book to dive into this year to reignite your faith, or maybe ignite it for the first time, check out, number 1, The Case for Christ. It's a great place to start. It's easy, it's an easy read, and it lays out many of the strongest evidences for believing in Jesus. Not just evidences in the Bible like prophecy, but also things that were written by other authors that confirm things that the Bible says. It's really fascinating, and it's a great place to start. There's another book that I really like called The Return of the God Hypothesis. This is a brand new book. It came out in 2021, and it's for the science nerds out there. And part of it is like a history and philosophy of science, and part of it is just getting you up to date on the bleeding edge of where science is at. And the guy who wrote this is not a preacher. He's actually a PhD with a degree in the history and philosophy of science. And he lectures all over the country. It's Stephen Meyer, and it's just a great book. You're going to get up to date on evolution, on the origin of life, on where scientists are at with that question. You're going to get up to date on the origin of the universe and of cosmology and where we are with our understanding of space and the heavens. And it's awesome. It's so good. And I would just love it if you all went and checked it out. Well, I am going to sign off there. Hope that you have a great new year, and I will be back a week from now talking with you again about some more nerdy stuff and how it relates to faith. All right, take care. God bless. Love you all. Bye-bye.